Hi everyone, this is Jamshed Qureshi here, and in this video we will learn about event binding in Angular. One small structural change I want you guys to know. So the code from our previous lessons, I have put them in a separate component. So I have created one folder called lessons and I have put the code from previous lessons in these components. So our last lesson was about property binding. So I have put the code for property binding in this component. You guys can take the code from my GitHub repository. I will mention the name of the Git repository in the description of this video. So let's start with event binding for this lesson. Let's go to the event binding component. So here we have the event binding component. So what exactly is event binding in Angular? Say suppose whenever we click on the save button, whenever we type something in our input field, or we change something from our select drop down, or simply we click on our div. So whatever event occurs on our HTML UI, to capture those events, we use event binding in Angular. What is the basic syntax of event binding? Say suppose this paragraph, whenever we click on this paragraph, we want to capture that. So we will simply write curly brackets over here and we will write click, which will capture the click event for this paragraph. And we will write some function which we have to mention in our TypeScript file. Say suppose we write para clicked, and we will create this function in our TypeScript file. Which will simply log whenever the paragraph is clicked. And one more thing we'll have to do is add this component in our app component file. That's because we have not created any routing as of now in our application. We will do that definitely in the future video when we come to the routing lessons. As of now, we will just add this component in our app component. Let's remove this. And we will add this component in the HTML. Let's save it and see what happens. So whenever we click on our paragraph, we can see the console is outputting para clicked. So every time we click, we will see the number going up. So what is happening over here is that our Angular application is capturing the click event on our paragraph and in turn is calling this para click function. And in this function, we are simply doing console.log with the text para clicked. So now we have seen how to capture event bindings in our Angular application. So the basic syntax is whichever event you want to capture, just put it inside round brackets. Let's see what all examples we are going to see in this video. I will just remove this and we will create a basic structure for our examples. We'll give some heading. So the first one we are going to see is the div click event. After that, we will see how to capture button click events. So let's give it a heading, button click event. Let's put that in a paragraph. And after that, we will check how to capture input events. After that, we will see how to capture selection drop-down change event. So let's put the heading. So let's start with the div click event. We already have one div over here and we have to bind the click event over here. So again, we will create open and close curly braces. We will write click, the event which we want to capture, and write a function to capture this click event. We will say div clicked And again, we will have to make this function in our TypeScript file. What we can do is we can simply replace the name of this function which we already have, and we will write div clicked. Now let's save and see what happens. Okay, so we have our div over here, some text which is written in that div, and when I click on this, we can see we can check the div click text in our console. So whenever I click on this, that number is increasing because it is again consoling that. So now let's write some other console text as well, so we know it is printing every time we click on it. So let's say we give asterisk and let's save it. So now every time we click on it, we can see the div click text is getting consoled along with the asterisk. So that is how you capture the click event on any div. In our second example, we will check how to capture button click events. So we have our paragraph created over here. Let's create a button. And again, we will write down open and close round brackets. Write the event name, and we will write the function name. That would be button clicked. And we will create this function in our TypeScript file. We can simply copy this console logs and change the div name, which would be button. Now when I save it, let me clear the console. Okay, so we have not given any name for the button. We'll write save. Okay. Now when I click on this save button, you can see the button click event is getting captured and our function is getting called, which is consoling the text button clicked. Let me click it again. So here you are. So this is the way we can capture button click events in Angular. And our next example would be input field events. So let's create one input field over here. Now capturing events in input field is a bit different from buttons and paragraphs and divs. There are different events associated with input fields. The most basic one is the input event, and we need to pass a special variable along with the event function, which is $event. Let's have a look at it. Again, we will write open close round brackets, and this time the event name would be input, and we will write a function input changed, and this time we will have to pass a variable, a JavaScript variable. So what does this $event provides us? It basically provides us the value of this input field. We will see how we can get the value of this input field in our function. Let's first create this input changed function. We will go to our TypeScript file, write this function name, and in the function we will also provide the parameter, which is event. So what does this event parameter provides us? Let's console and see that. We'll have to provide the type of this event. As of now, we will just put it as any. Let's save it and see. Now let's try and type something. So as soon as we type something, the input event has been triggered, and let's see what we have got in the input event. Let's expand this. What we are most interested in is the value of this input field. So where can we get it? So within this event object, we have got a target object, and in this target object, we have also got a value field. If we go down a bit more, here it is. So basically it's deep down in the event object. So the easiest way to capture our value is drill down in the object to get our value. So let's do that. Now let's save it and see. Now if I write down anything over here, so we are directly getting the value from our event object into that target object and then the value field. So this is the most basic way to get your input field's value in Angular. And now whenever we type in our input field, that would be captured in our console. You see? And there's one more thing which I want to show you guys. Say suppose we want to capture some other events as well apart from typing. Say whenever a user is typing and he presses enter, then we want to submit the input field or we want to validate something. That also can be done. We have other events for that. Let's have a look at it. And again for this event we will write open and close round brackets, and the keyword for this event is keydown dot enter. This will basically capture our enter key press events. We will bind it to our component function and name it enter key pressed. We don't have to pass any event variable in this function. We will copy it and create that in our component file, and we will simply console whenever our enter key is pressed. We will save it and let's see the output. So as soon as we start typing, we can see our input event is getting triggered. I will clear the console and now I will press the enter key. Let's see what happens. You see, as soon as I press the enter key, our event got triggered and this function in return consoled the text enter key is pressed. So that's how you capture different events in our input fields. There are other events as well which we will discuss in our future videos. And let's move to our next example, which is the select dropdown. Let's create a select over here. We will give it some options. So the event in our select dropdown is a bit different from our other UI elements. Here we capture the selection changes for our select dropdown and the event name is change. So let's again open and close our round bracket and the event name is change. We will capture that in our function named selection changed, and again we will pass the event variable. We will create this function in our component file. We will pass the event variable as a parameter. We'll keep it of type any as of now, and again we will just console the value of our selection. Let's save it and see. We will pull this a bit down so that we can see our options. Now let's change the select dropdown value. You see, as soon as we change the option in our select dropdown, our event got triggered and we have got the selected value. Let's change again and see. So here we have seen different ways in which we can capture events on different UI elements. So in case of any interview, if someone asks you which are the different events we can capture in Angular, you can mention for normal text and button, you can capture the click event. For input fields, the basic ones are the input event and the key down event, and there are other events as well which you can also refer. and for the selection we have the change event. I hope you liked the video, and if you got any information from it, then please like and subscribe to my channel. Thank you.